If I had to sum this up, when I read the headline a couple days ago, I would maybe put the headline, South Carolinians, some members of the legislature are saying guns first, country second. I know that's an oversimplification, but in a real sense, without our Second Amendment, do we even have a union?
Well, good afternoon, and thank you for having me. So, Mr. Pitts, the gentleman that proposed this bill, to read the bill, actually, what it's discussing is that if the government voted to take away your Second Amendment rights, South Carolinians would have the right, if they wanted to, secede from the Union. So, I'm one of those people that actually carry this bad boy around with me everywhere I go. And the Second Amendment was written to protect us, to be able to protect ourselves from a militia, to provide protection. The Second Amendment is critical. If the government wants to take that away, what's to say that they can't take away the First Amendment or the 14th Amendment? It's constitutionally, it's a slippery slope we go down, and gun
All right.
control isn't the issue.
Okay, yeah, it is. And on this program, we're very pro 2A. And in fact,
Oh,
I kind of oversimplify the Second Amendment when I'm explaining it to people, whether it's on this program or off the air. And that is, the Second Amendment exists to protect the rest of the Constitution. Because
absolutely.
without the Second Amendment, yes, it's a heck of a lot easier to take away your First Amendment rights. Or another way I oversimplify it is, we would be just like Mexico if we didn't
Absolutely.
have the Second Amendment. And look at the two-tiered class system they have and the government corruption that they have in Mexico. So that's kind of the way I look at it. Is that the way these folks are looking at it, Pitts included?
Absolutely. Yes, South Carolinians, stand firm behind the Second Amendment. It is not something that is a negotiable tool here. It's not something that's going to win an election here. The Democrats really need to stay out of South Carolina, especially in South Carolina 1, over the Second Amendment. That's something we are not willing to give up.
Now, of course, the history of South Carolina is long in this country. And in 1860, South Carolina, if I remember my history correctly, was the first state to officially secede from the Union as a precursor to the Civil War. So there's a long lineage here of South Carolina taking a stand. I would imagine you're getting some sort of blowback and some sort of comparison to what happened in 1860 versus what is being suggested now, which isn't really a fair comparison, but I would
No, no.
assume it's happening.
Of course. And, the liberals are going to come in and they're going to throw anything they can. So, absolutely, that has been tossed around. And what Mr. Pitts was trying to say is that your Second Amendment is part of what the founding fathers knew you had to have to protect yourself, to protect your family, and to protect the Constitution, the thing that combines us and binds us all. I mean, absolutely. And the blue wave is trying to make this an issue. It's not.
So in other
It's
words,
just
this
not.
is a piece of legislation that you pass in the event of this calamity, and it would be a calamity if the federal government begins tearing apart the Second Amendment any more than it already has.
Absolutely. And that's what the Representative Pitts was trying to say. Do you want to be a part of a government that will repeal and amend the Second Amendment? Is that what we want? And in South Carolina, it sits in the House, this bill. It missed crossover. It's there as a statement piece. Do you really want to be part of a government that arbitrarily comes out and takes away your rights at a whim?
But isn't it terrible that we're even talking about this, that South
Absolutely.
Carolina, and I'm sure other states are looking at this,
Oh,
along with you. I'm sure you're getting some input from other states that they may follow suit. But it's terrible that we're at a point in this country where people have attacked the Second Amendment to the point where a state like South Carolina has to say, hey, wait a minute, we're going to stand up for the Second Amendment. But it's also terrible to the point we are in this country where young people are not being educated about the Second Amendment. And instead, they're being raised to be afraid of firearms and to look at a gun as being bad.
when I grew up, I would pull into my high school parking lot, and there were gun racks on the back of almost every truck, and
Mm.
we did not have mass shootings. The challenge that we have today is that we have a generation who doesn't respect human life. They haven't been taught what you and I and most of the conservative nation knows, that you respect human life. And part of owning a firearm is respecting the firearm itself and the people that are surrounding you. When you go out and you are hunting, you wear an orange flak vest, you wear an orange hat, you make sure that every human being in the area can see you